All right. So the Georgia Heart Program, Georgia Film Tax Credits, and Student Scholarship Organizations are three programs that can help business owners reduce their taxes. So we're going to jump right in. Justin, explain to us what the Georgia Heart Program is and how it can help business owners save money, economic
All right.
benefit.
Yeah. So the Georgia Heart Program was launched by our state legislature a few years ago. And the reason was that a lot of rural hospitals are primarily funded through local taxes. And a lot of these hospitals were struggling financially, so the state came up with a program to help fund those hospitals. And
Like incentivize individuals to help them get.
right. So
Yeah.
they don't want these hospitals to go under. They want to improve access to good health care across the state. So they launched this program, and it's basically redirecting state income tax to go directly to these programs or to these hospitals. And what the incentive is on the state side, on the state tax side, it's a dollar for dollar tax exchange. So what you would owe in your state income taxes, if you owe, let's just say $1,000 to the state in income taxes, well, you can, in lieu of that, donate to a qualifying Georgia hospital, and you still pay $1,000 instead of paying it to the state. You just donate that money to.
So this is different from, let's say you're giving to a charity like your church or your alma mater, right? You give them $1,000 that year, that reduces your taxable income. By giving your church $1,000, it doesn't mean you pay $1,000 less in taxes to the state. And in this case, we're using Georgia, right? But in this case, if you write a check to a Georgia rural hospital, I think you're going to walk us through to make sure it's the right hospital and the right process. It's actually reducing your taxes by $1,000 if you're giving them $1,000. And so that's why you call it a dollar for dollar tax credit. In a way, at that point, you're just really redirecting your tax dollars. So instead of sending your tax dollars to the Georgia Department of Revenue and letting them decide what to do with it, you're actually saying in this example, hey, $1,000 of the taxes I would pay this year, I would like that to go to help support rural tax hospitals. But not tax hospitals, but hospitals, right?
Rural hospitals, right.
So, but what we said at the beginning of the video was that there's actually an economic benefit if you're a business owner and you do this as a business owner. So explain that.
Yeah. So the IRS has issued guidance on this, and they say that this is not a charitable contribution. And under their guidance here, they allow a business owner to consider this a ordinary business expense, just like you would pay to market somewhere.
Nice.
And the Georgia Heart Program really makes this easy. When you donate, you go through their process. They send you some marketing materials just so that you can say in your community that you're helping these local hospitals. And the IRS, acknowledges that that's a good use of capital as a business expense, and it reduces the business's taxable income.
Right.
So on the state side, you get dollar for dollar because it's a tax credit. So you get your money back on the state side. Then on the federal side, you've just reduced your taxable income. So whatever your marginal tax rate is what you should expect from a business owner of a pass-through business. That's what you should expect to save.
So the business actually has to be the one to write the check in this example.
Right.
So if the individual writes the check, they're sort of redirecting tax dollars, getting dollar for dollar benefit. It doesn't necessarily save them taxes overall. But if a business does it, like a pass-through business, so we're talking about like LLC, sub-S's, partnerships, right? Let's say you own a business and it's an LLC, and the business writes a check for $10,000 to a Georgia-approved rural hospital, right? They get the dollar for dollar credit on the state side, but actually reduces the taxable profit or taxable income of the business. And so let's say you own that LLC, you write the check from the LLC and your effective rate is 25%. You're actually saving 25% on the federal side. So you get the money back sort of dollar for dollar, 100% from the state tax side. You're actually getting an additional economic benefit that's equal to whatever your effective tax rate is on top of that.
Right. And it's your marginal rate because you're saving money off that top tax bracket. Now, it does get a little bit tricky if you have qualified business income. because there's already a 20% deduction on the federal side for your qualified business income.
Okay.
So that's going to reduce your tax percentage,
So
the rate
it's
of your
probably
tax.
worth talking to your advisor or to your CPA and unpacking this a little bit. What we're trying to do is say, hey, look, this thing is out there. I think it's the same kind of scenario with an SSO. An SSO is a student scholarship organization. And in Georgia, there's a few of them. And private schools can hire an SSO to do the same kind of program as a Georgia Heart program. And so if an individual writes a check to an SSO, it will provide scholarships for lower income families. Maybe they're in an area where the public schools aren't that great. They want to take their kids to private school, but it's expensive. This SSO, Student Scholarship Organization, can provide these scholarships for those lower income families. But it's really just redirecting the income tax dollars, right? I've actually personally done that for years, right? So I've gotten a dollar for dollar credit on the Georgia state income, but it's kind of me directing it, say, hey, no, I want this to provide scholarships for lower income families that want to take their kids to private school, right? But it doesn't actually, if I do it as an individual, I don't get any additional economic benefit, right? I don't have any incentive. But if I do it for a business, right? So what are how much are we talking about? For examples, we used 1,000 or 10,000, but as a business, what kind of size of check can I write to a rural hospital or, an SSO?
The bill was passed to limit how much you can donate up through June 30th, and that limit for a business is $10,000. Or if you're doing this as an individual, if you're filing single, it's 5,000. If you're filing jointly, it's 10,000. And that's the limit up to June 30th. Now, after June 30th, they open it up and you can do as much as you want. But
if there's room left, right? We're assuming there's room left. The Georgia Department of Revenue says we only want so much money going to rural hospitals. We need tax revenue to do all of our things. We'll say, hey, people can claim up to this amount as a dollar for dollar credit, right? So if that hasn't been reached by June 30th, it opens it up as kind of a first.
Exactly. Yep. Right. So as well, the limit for the HEART program is $60 million a year.
Yeah.
And as of today, they've raised a little over 15 million. So there's about 44 million left.
Yeah. So it's June 5th, 2020, in case you're watching this video way past then. But just kind of a good example, like Justin's saying, up to June 30th, you could do up to this point $10,000. Wait till after June 30th. At this point, it sounds like this year there'll be a lot of room left, and businesses could write bigger checks. I don't know what the numbers are for the SSO, but it's,
I believe it's similar for the SSO. Now, the one thing to consider if you're doing this to save money, well, if you're doing this just in lieu of your tax payments, you don't want to donate more than your state tax liability.
Right.
I mean, that's just, if your heart calls you to do that, that's fine, but you're gonna, you're not gonna earn or get your money back, basically.
Right. So I like that you brought that up, right? Because there's a left brain decision and a right brain decision here, right? The left side of our brain, we're gonna run the numbers. What's the economic benefit to me? How much effort does I have to take to do this? What's the risk? Am I just redirecting taxes? Okay, but am I saving money? Right. The right side of the brain is the more the feeling side of the brain. Like, this is a good thing, right? Like, where you're helping hospitals, you're helping schools, you're helping lower income families get access to potentially higher education in their areas. And so what's really powerful about this concept is that it's really a left brain and a right brain decision. Hey, real quick on the Georgia Heart program, and it's the same with the SSO, I think, but how do they do the process? Like, you said probably the first step in the process is figure out what your tax liability is and talk to your advisor or CPA about it. But then what's really the process to making sure that you get the dollar for dollar credit? The IRS identifies it as marketing kind of goodwill. What's the process?
So yeah, before you do anything, you want to get that, like you said, the estimate for your tax liability. Then you would go to georgiaheart.org. And it's the HEART program's website. This right on the home page, there's a button to click. It's submit your 2020 tax credit application. And they've done a really good job at making this easy. It's kind of, it leads you step by step how to fill out the form. You'll fill it out online. They submit it for approval to the Georgia Department of Revenue. And then you get approval. and then you've got 180 days to write the check, or before December 31st of the year. So whichever comes first.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Regardless, you got to get that check in there before the calendar year. So this is not necessarily a strategy we're encouraging you to do now to save you taxes on last year's return, right? Like you've got to figure it out this year. You got to write the check this year, and then, it'll come back to you on your return. So an SSO, Student Scholarship Organization, is very similar. Based on the school that you want to provide the scholarship for, you find out what SSO they use. And a lot of times they've got a website that'll do the same thing. Make it super easy for you to get permission from the Department of Revenue to do it. And then they'll kind of give you a green light on the amount too. So you kind of got to sort that out. Sometimes that's changing. And then you got to get that check written in within a certain time period. So these are really great programs. There's more information obviously about them, and they're changing, but they're very valuable. They're cool to do just in terms of a donation, but for business owners, they get a little extra economic benefit. Last thing we wanted to share about was Georgia film credits. Okay. So in the state of Georgia, there are a lot of tax incentives for movies, TV shows to be filmed in Georgia, right? And the incentives are they save on state income tax. But if they're not, headquartered in Georgia and filling out a Georgia return, then it doesn't benefit them to have that. So what they do is they find a broker and they sell them at a discount. And so they'll still be able to take the discount and the other person will. So we can walk people through that more. Your CPA can. But basically it's 10 cents on the dollar. So we have a connection with a group. And so you pay 90 cents for a dollar of state income tax benefits. So essentially you could write them a $9,000 check and they could give you $10,000 worth of credits. Okay. So really anybody can do that. You don't have to be a business owner to do that. An individual can do that. Same thing like Justin's saying, probably don't buy more tax credits than you have tax liability. What is interesting about tax credits is sometimes, I don't know right now, but sometimes there are some from the previous year that you can still buy. You would just have to amend your return if you've already filed it. If you're watching this and it's around the time we filmed it, we're in the middle of COVID. And so last year's tax return deadline got pushed to July 15th. If you haven't filed your personal return yet for 2019, you may be able to buy tax credits that will positively impact your return. So that's kind of a nice thing. It really just depends on how many credits are out there. Maybe for 2020, there'll be less because there's been a lot less filming, but then it'll pick back up again. And something I wanted to share with you too is we're talking specifically about Georgia's programs. That's where our company is headquartered, but we have clients all throughout the country. And especially like when it comes to tax credits, sometimes there are historic homes and different things that are going on in your state, and they're offering tax credits for it. And so you can check with us and we can check your state and see if there's any credits there, or if you're not a client of ours, then you can probably do some online searching and figure that out as well. And your state may have things like the Georgia Heart Program for rural hospitals, might have student scholarship organizations for private school scholarships, or maybe they have different programs too. But these are kind of three of the bigger beneficial things that you can do as a Georgia taxpayer. Justin, any final words?
No, I think that covers it. Definitely, if you have additional questions, let us know, and we'd be happy to kind of walk you through the process here. So.
Yeah, you can. If you need our help, you can go to goodwininvestment.com. And you'll be able to get in touch with us there, and we'd be happy to help you if you need that. So have a great day. Hopefully that helps you.